Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Morty and Aaron Show, where we share stories of Gdolei Yisrael, how they gave up from themselves for other people. Once upon a time, in a country by the name of Poland, there was a couple, an older couple, and they so much wanted to have a child. And this older couple had a lot of emunat chachamim. They relied on the rabbis, and they went from place to place to get a bracha. And there was a certain tzaddik that they knew that if he would give the bracha, it for sure they would have a child. And they approached numerous times, and this certain tzaddik didn't want to take the responsibility to give the bracha. And finally, after beseeching and davening to Hashem and doing tzedakos and chasadim and doing all types of things, they went one more time to this great tzaddik. And the tzaddik said to him, "Give me a day." And this couple, who was a very, very nice people, he was a doctor, he was a person that always took care of people, and he liked people, and his wife was a big tzaddiket, always there for everybody else. He decides that Be'ezrat Hashem, whatever it's going to cost to get a bracha from the tzaddik, I'm going to do it just so I can have a child. It's better to have a child more than anything else in the world. 24 hours later, he goes back to the tzaddik, like the tzaddik said, and he says to him, "Do you have an answer? Do you have an answer?" He says, "Yes, I have an answer. But it's not an easy answer. And it's going to take a lot of commitment. You're going to really, really have to think about this before you make the commitment to have this specific child." The father says, "I'll do anything. I'll give you all my money, whatever it is. I just want to have a beautiful child, a son or a daughter, whatever Hashem wants to give me." So the tzaddik is rubbing his head and looking back and forth, and he's pacing. And he says, "Okay, I'll tell you. Here's what it is. The child that you're going to have is going to be a very, very special child. And in order to have this child, it's going to cost you dearly. Anything, Rabbi, whatever it takes. I would love to have a child." He says, "Well, it's going to cost you in a different way. You see, if you decide to have the child, all the money that you have in the world will be lost. You'll lose your house. You lose your horses, your practice. Everything is going to be lost. And when your wife will be 7 months pregnant, then you as the father, you're going to pass away. You're not going to be here in this world anymore." He goes, "Oh." The father thinks for a second. And he says, "I'm ready. I just want to have a child." He says, "I'm not finished. And after you pass away and everything is lost, your wife will be alone. She'll give birth to a child. But right after the Brit Milah of this child, she will also pass away." So he says, "I'm sure my wife is ready." "No, you have to go home. You have to discuss it with your wife and come back. And if you're willing to, really, really willing to make that commitment, then I'll daven for you, and Be'ezrat Hashem, you'll be zocheh to have this magnificent child." Okay, the father says, "Oh, all right." He goes home and he sits down with his wife and they talk it over. He says, "We have an opportunity. We'll get a bracha and we'll get a child, but it's going to cost us everything." So the wife and the husband, they think about it. The husband says, "I'm for sure ready. What is life without having children? Children is everything. Children is the source of happiness. Even if I'll never see my child, but at least there'll be a continuation. It's worth it for me." And the wife thinks and says, yes, me too. I would love to have a child even for a minute than not to have a child at all. So that night they both thought about it and thought about it. And in the morning, the father got up and went to daven early and daven to Hashem for Siyat Dishmaya that he's making the right decisions. And he goes back to this big tzaddik and he says, I spoke it over with my wife. We are both in agreement and we're calm and we're happy and we would love to have an opportunity to bring a neshama to this world and to have a child. So the tzaddik says, okay, if that's the case, then you got it. Ube'ezus Hashem, I'm going to daven right now and bless you, and you're going to have a beautiful child. They went home, and life went on as usual. And lo and behold, his wife became pregnant. And it was such a big simcha. Everybody in town was saying, wow, what a miracle. They waited so long for this mazel tov, mazel tov. Bisha tova, it should be in a good time, in a good morning, a good afternoon, a good everything. Everyone's giving these tremendous brachas. But deep inside, they kept the secret and they knew that it's not going to be as easy as everybody thinks it is. This is going to be a very, very difficult situation. And as life goes on, one day at a time, every business that this great doctor had slowly started to fall apart. He had stocks, they went away. He had real estate, no one paid the rent. He had a gas station. They had horse and buggies, no one needed cars, no one needed gas. Whatever he had to do, there was nobody there to buy from him. And he was losing it. But he smiled and he was happy. Why? Because his wife is pregnant and he's so excited to have a child. And this man every day goes on and he's so happy he has a child coming to the world. And as it becomes close to 7 months, he's preparing himself because he knows that once it's 7 months, that's it, game over. He's not going to live past 7 months. So it's now 6.5 months and he's preparing whatever he can and he's telling his wife, we're going to lose everything anyway. We might as well give a lot of tzedakah and we'll have a lot of zchuyot. And his wife became very friendly with the next door neighbor who was a baker. She had a bakery and she baked bread and they sold the bread and she became her best friend. And slowly but surely, as soon it was 7 months, the husband says goodbye to his wife and he passes away. But he passes away with a smile because he knows the bracha of the tzaddik and that he's going to have an opportunity to have a beautiful child that's going to be a source of nachat to all of Am Yisrael. A special neshama is coming to this world and it's going to be amazing. And 7 months, 8 months, and then it's in the 9th month, right? She's all alone. She has no more house. She has nothing in the world. All she has is the little clothing that she's wearing, and she already moved into the house of the baker. Her friend, the baker. The funniest thing happened. She was also expecting, and she was also getting ready to have a child. And in the same night, they both gave birth. The baker's wife, the wife of the baker, gave birth to a girl. And the wife of the husband gave birth to a boy. And they were so happy. But they knew soon's going to be the bris, and after day number 8, it's going to be lost. It's going to be lost. They're going to lose the child. As a result of that, the two wives got together on day number 7 before the bris, and they made a little box and they put in the both children, and they said, look how cute they are. Let's marry them off. Let's say and let's agree that these two children will be husband and wife. And they made a little chuppah and they played out the wedding and they danced and they were so happy because she knew that these were the last days. They went to the bris, and 2 days later, the mother passed away. And the baker took in this wonderful boy. And the lady, Mrs. Baker, her name was Adele. This lady Adele took in this boy and started to bring him up. And you know, boys and girls, this little boy was so smart. He was so brilliant. Whatever he learned, he was the best in class and the smartest, and everybody was so amazed by him. And as he got older, he became massive Talmid Chacham. And all the big rabbis from all over Poland and Lithuania would send a message, hi, we would like that our daughter should marry this boy. And he would say, no. My mother already picked out the shidduch for me. And the shidduch that my mother wanted me to have, that's the girl I'm going to have. But you were only 7 days old. My mother said it, and that's what I'm going to do. And he complied with the will of his mother, and the daughter of the baker became his wife. And they lived very, very, very humbly. And so much so, they lived on the outskirts of the town in a small little hut. And this person, this Talmid Chacham, his name was Shmuel Eliezer. By his bris, they named him after his father's. His father's name was Shmuel Eliezer, and they named the boy Shmuel Eliezer. And at that moment in time, he always kept the name Shmuel Eliezer. But Shmuel Eliezer always learned Torah. Always. He never stopped for a minute. Day and night and day and night. And what he used to do something very, very special in his house. He had long hair. And with his long hair, he used to tie it up to the ceiling. And if at night while he was learning Torah, he would get tired and he would fall asleep, his head would fall down, would pull his hair. And he would wake up and he would continue his learning. He can't not learn Torah. Day and night and day and night he would study Torah. But all the kids in town would look at him and say, look, Shmuel Eliezer, he's such a funny looking guy. He's such a funny looking guy. And they would make fun of him. Hey, you with the long hair, you look weird. What are you, long hair? Why have such long hair? And he would ignore them. They're just little kids. And everybody thought the guy was something crazy in his head. But nobody knew really what Rav Shmuel Eliezer was doing. He was tying his hair to the ceiling, doing whatever he can to stay up. And every moment he would take advantage to learn Torah. And listen here, boys and girls. You know, Morty and Aaron, you boys, you learn so much and you work so hard. All right, I don't think you should tie your hair to the ceiling. Maybe your mommy won't like it, and the school won't be happy if you have very long hair. But if you can put in some more effort, I'm sure your mommies will be very happy. So, in this town where Shmuel Eliezer lived, we know that the kids always made fun of him. But in this town, there was a very, very big tzaddik. And maybe he was one of the Lamed Vav tzaddikim. You know what a Lamed Vav tzaddik is? Is a person that is a tzaddik nistar. Nobody knows him. Nobody knows that he's really such a special person, that he's the type of person that can meet with even Eliyahu Hanavi. Because whatever he does l'shem shamayim, and nobody knows what he does. The gabbai, the person that takes care of the shul in this town, he was a tzaddik nistar. Nobody knew. Nobody. Even I didn't know. And he used to go into the shul late at night. Well, everybody was sleeping. Everybody. And even your daddies and your tatis and your abbas, that they stay up late at night and they're learning and they're doing what they have to do. This guy, this tzaddik, would stay up even later. And when nobody is looking, he would sneak into the shul every night, lock the door behind him, and he would start davening to Hashem and saying to Hashem, how much we miss you, how much we want to partake, and we want the Beis HaMikdash again, so we could be together, all together in Yerushalayim. And all of these concerns, he says, Hashem, we feel so bad that your Shekhinah is not here. We feel so bad that you don't have a place to live. We feel so bad that you see your children with sinas chinam, and we have senseless hatred for one another. We really want to do more. And he used to daven and say, Hashem, please bring the Geula. But this tzaddik would learn and daven the whole night for everybody else in the world, and for all of Am Yisrael, and for everybody, anyone that's sick, he would have them in mind, and anyone that needed help, he would try his best to intervene on behalf and daven to Hashem and say, please give this person a refuah shalema. But lo and behold, for the first time in his life, he fell asleep in the middle of the night. He was learning and learning and learning and learning, and somehow he got so tired and he drifted off and he fell asleep. When he wakes up, there's this tall, big, strong man with a red beard standing next to him. And he asks him, hi, how are you? Shalom Aleichem. And he goes, wow. And the gabbai is thinking, how did you get in? The door was locked. She says, how'd you get in? I got in from the front door. I don't understand, but I fell asleep. I never fall asleep. Why am I asleep? And I'm awake, I'm confused. She says, can you give me directions to the house of Rav Shmuel Eliezer? Rav Shmuel Eliezer? Yeah, when you go out to the corner, you make a left, go down to the end of the block, and then you make a right, you go 2 houses down, you'll see the light on. That's his house. His light's on. He's always learning Torah. That's where he is. Oh, thank you very much. And the person leaves. And the gabbai is thinking to himself, I remember locking the door. I always lock the door. How is it possible that this came about, that he got in? He didn't make anything out of it. Then he kept on learning through the night, and he davened, and everything was on. The next night, he said, last night I slipped up, and I'm going to take 3 coffees, and I'm going to lock the door. When I lock the door, I'm going to put a bench in front of the door. If anybody even tries to come in, I'm going to hear something. You can't open the door without moving the whole bench. It's going to make a bunch of noise. It's going to be crazy. So it can't be that someone's going to come in. It's not possible. So what does he do? He puts the bench and he locks the door and he drinks 3 coffees. And as he's drinking the coffees, he starts to learn. He starts davening to Hashem about the Churban Beis HaMikdash and all the tzaros of Am Yisrael again every night. And as the night goes on, he starts getting tired. I'm tired. And boom, he falls asleep. And while he's asleep, all of a sudden, he gets a tap on the shoulder. He wakes up. Who's this? He looks this most beautiful, handsome man, taller than anybody he ever met in his life, shining with a white, beautiful beard, standing there. And he says to him, "Hi, I'm sorry to wake you, but do you know where Rav Shmuel Eliezer lives?" He goes, "Shmuel Eliezer? How'd you get into the building? I'm the guy, I locked the door, I put the bench. How'd you get in?" I got in through the front door. Something's not right. So, okay, but I would like to go to Rav Shmuel Eliezer's house. Can you tell me? The guy looked like a really serious person. He looked like a real tzaddik. So okay. You go out to the shul, you make a left. You go down 2 blocks, you make a right. You see 2 houses over there. On your left-hand side, you'll see the lights are on. He's always learning Torah. Go ahead. And the Gabbai is thinking to himself, how did this happen 2 nights in a row? 50 years I never fell asleep. And now 2 nights in a row I fell asleep. This is a problem. It's a problem. Okay. He finishes his davening. He puts on the oven, makes the shul warm for everybody because it was a cold night. Back in the day, you had to use wood, and it took a long time to get the fire going. So everyone that comes into shul will be nice and comfortable. And he makes everything ready, and he's really not understanding what's going on. Fine. The next night, he sneaks into the shul. And this night, he takes all the tables and all the benches, and he piles them up by the entrance of the shul. If anybody comes in, for sure they're going to have to knock over the tables. And for sure they're going, I don't know. And he starts his night, and he starts his learning, and he starts davening to Hashem, and he does what's called Tikkun Chatzot, Tikkun Rachel, Tikkun Leah, special tefillot where we say to Hashem, please bring Mashiach. We miss you so much. We want you to be living amongst us. We want to see you. There's so much confusion in the world. So many people are sick. People are not healthy. Please, Hashem, be part of our world, that we can see you and feel you like it was in the times of Yerushalayim when the Beis HaMikdash existed. And as he's davening and he's learning, he starts to get tired. And he goes, no! And he takes out black coffee, not just regular coffee, black Turkish coffee. And he says, Turkish coffee? Nobody falls asleep on Turkish coffee. If you smell Turkish coffee, you'll be up for a week. And he takes 5 cups of Turkish coffee from Elite, and he waits until all the little crumbs start to float down and sink. But he had to get there. He couldn't want to wait. He just drank it with all the sand. And he ate it, and it wasn't so delicious because it was kind of icky, and he was going, but he felt like, okay, now I won't fall asleep. And then 15 minutes goes by, and 20 minutes goes by, and he continues his learning, and all of a sudden, he has boom! His head falls down on the table, and he's asleep. He's sleeping, and then all of a sudden he wakes up, and there's a man standing next to him, and he says, "What are you doing here?" He said, I would like to know how to get to Rav Shmuel Eliezer's address. He says, ho. You want information from me? Well, listen to me, hey, buddy. 2 nights ago, a red-faced guy came here with a red beard. Last night, this tall guy, very handsome, looking gorgeous, like a malach, came to visit me. And now you? Who are you? Well, I can't really tell you. It's kind of a secret. He says, it's a secret? So listen here, buddy. If you don't tell me what's going on, nobody's getting any more information from me. And I'm not going to tell anybody what's going on. So, are you going to tell me who are you and who those other people were that are going to Rav Shmuel Eliezer? He says, listen, I really don't like giving away secrets. Are you good at keeping a secret? This is me, good. I'm the gabbai. You know what gabbais and shuls do? That's all we do is keep everybody's secrets. We never say anything to anybody. So, and we know everybody's stories. So if you want, your secret is good with me. So he says, okay, let me introduce myself. My name is Eliyahu Hanavi, Eliyahu Hatishbi, Eliyahu Hanavi, Eliyahu Hagiladi. You're Eliyahu Hanavi. No. You're not going to have a heart attack tonight. I actually know that you're not dying tonight. I made sure the Malach HaMavis is somewhere else, and he's not going to be bothering you. But yeah. So Eliyahu Hanavi is my name. And I'm going to tell you a secret. And the day you reveal that secret to the world, that will be the day that your neshama will pass from your body and go to the next world. He says, okay, I kind of got the message. I won't tell anybody. Okay. 2 nights ago, you had a visitor. He was red beard, right? He was strong looking, right? That was David HaMelech. And last night you had the tallest and most handsomest person you ever met in your life. He goes, yeah, that was Shaul HaMelech. They came to Shmuel Eliezer and they wanted to, because he had a chidush in the sugya of David HaMelech and Shaul, where he had a special, what's called a limut zchut, where he can come and tell them a new chidush that, and find benefit in that there shouldn't be a machloket. And he has a new psak. And this new psak creates much more harmony between David and Shaul HaMelech. And in Shamayim, they said, if Rav Shmuel Eliezer has this chidush and this is the way he's paskening, then we have to change everything that goes on in the world, because he paskin differently. And I am Eliyahu Hanavi coming on day number 3 to pick up the psak and bring it to Bezdin Shalmala. And this is the secret. And I'm telling you now that the day you reveal this secret to anybody, upon that day, right before Shkia, after Mincha, on that day you will pass away. So the Gabbai says to him, all right, do you want directions now? He says, yeah, kind of. He says, okay. You come out of the shul, you make a left. You go 2 blocks, you make a right. When you're right, you're going to see 2 houses on the left. The light's on. The light's always on. He's always learning Torah. Okay. Eliyahu Hanavi leaves. And now, at this point in time, the Gabbai of the shul, he's not able to go back to sleep, obviously. He was just found out that Rav Shmuel Eliezer is such a big Talmud Chacham and such a tzaddik that in Shamayim, if he has a chidush in Torah, they're waiting to hear it to change all of history. That everything that took place between Shaul HaMelech and David, to find a limud zchus to show that things were proper and nothing is wrong, the entire creation can change. And they come to Rav Shmuel Eliezer to find out his chidush and his new psak. How can I be quiet? How can I not tell the world that we have living with us such a big tzaddik, and all the kids in the neighborhood make fun of him, and everybody thinks he's nuts, he's crazy. I can't sit back and do nothing. I have to do something. And he started to pace and walking back and forth. What am I going to do? 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 And that day he decides, I'm going to reveal to the world that Rav Shmuel Eliezer is a massive Talmud Chacham, and the proof will be that after I tell everyone the secret of what took place, that night I'll pass away, and it's worth it because of Kvod Talmidei Chachamim. My whole life is about advancing the Torah and advancing the Talmidei Chachamim, and here's an opportunity to make a Kiddush Hashem, and so be it. You see, life is worth living, but everybody eventually is going to die. And when people die, there's only one question: was your life worth living? And it's better what we do with our lives that makes life worth living. As a result of that, do we do Torah? Do we do mitzvot? Do we daven well? Do we make a brachot? Do we say thank you? Are we a kiddush Hashem? Then life is worth living. And if chas v'shalom we're not, well, so this Gabbai that morning, after davening, when hundreds and thousands of people came to the shul to daven, after each minyan he would stand up and say, listen to me, gentlemen, I'm going to share with you a story that took place in the past 3 days. That David HaMelech came, and Shaul HaMelech came, and Eliyahu Hanavi came to pick up the psak. And you know how? You're going to know it's truth because tonight after Mincha, look at me, I'm so strong and healthy. Before Arvit, I'm going to pass away. And all day he would tell this story. And all day some people said, okay, let's see if it's true. We'll find out. We'll find out at 6 o'clock tonight. And it came time at 6 o'clock that night. He came and he said, Shema Yisrael, and he said, Vidui, and he says, Hashem, I'm ready to come. And his neshama left him. And everybody knew that Shmuel Eliezer, Shmuel Eliezer, was a tremendous, big tzaddik. And you know his name today? He has a pirush on all of Shas. And he's called the Maharsha. Every single Rashi and Tosfot and piece of Gemara has his commentary. And you know why he's called Maharsha? Shmuel Eliezer, right? And his adopted mother's name was Adel. So he put in an aleph. So dear children, I would like to take a moment in time and dedicate this story to a dear friend of mine that his whole life he dedicated to teaching. His whole life he was there to give to others with respect and dignity. Harav Chaim Dahan, Zecher Tzadik Levracha. That lo alenu, today, right now, today, was the day that Hashem says that we want you in Yeshiva Shel Mala. We want you in the Beit Medrash in Shemayim, so that you can help us and with all the different people that need a limud zchut, because he was always melamed zchut on everybody. So, dear kids, have a wonderful night, and Hashem should always be with you. You should have pleasant dreams, but when you have those dreams, it always should be good, and you should get inspired to want to do more. Good night.